this incident again, Colm, as the players were making their way off for the dressing rooms, and the player to keep an eye on, number 13 of Kildare.
Yes, Liam Miley here going in, runs straight into the back of Jack Sheedy, and Jack Sheedy gives him a wallop. Liam Miley goes down. Miley should have been avoiding Sheedy anyway, no need for him to run into the back of him, and I don't think he was too badly injured, should have just got up and got on with it.
The rain has eased quite considerably. The sun has made a bright and welcome appearance at Croke Park. Mick Galvin is in for Jim Gavin on the full forward line for Dublin, but it's Glenn Ryan, as in the first half, who sets the first attack in motion. Broken up by Jack Sheedy, fisted outside here to Paul O'Neill. Anthony Rainbow kicking it down, and there was a restraining arm being used by Johnny MacDonald, who seems to have moved to full forward against Dermot Deasy, and the referee says take the free kick once again, but from the correct position. Deasy. Jack Sheedy going by, supported by Paul O'Neill to his right. To his left, however, is Paul Beelan. Now Eamon Heary, a right half forward, trying to get away from the would-be tackles. Paul O'Neill again. Great defensive play by Liam Miley. Overall, Kildare will be very pleased with the way they played in defence in the first half, while not presenting much of a threat in attack, it has to be said. It bounced off the head of Niall Buckley. O'Neill. Here's Dermot Deasy, protecting himself as he was taking that ball forward, fisted out by Brian Fahey. And the challenge by Johnny MacDonald is penalised, and Jack Sheedy, the player, was told to get up off the ground quickly. It was a rash challenge by Johnny MacDonald from Naas. He was beaten for it, he'd lost possession, he'd conceded the free.
But Jack Sheedy goes down very well here on the ball, controls it and goes down. Johnny MacDonald has absolutely no chance of getting that ball and should have stood off him. And then when he has taken Sheedy out, but puts in a punch as well, Johnny MacDonald would be lucky to stay on.
MacDonald having his name taken by Tommy McDermott. A player from either team has now been booked. Keith Barr kicking. Good deep ball, but going towards the right-hand side. Coming out now to Sean McGovern. Johnny MacDonald trying to take it away from Keith Barr. That's good defensive play. Now Desi Farrell. Farrell looking for another Dublin score. Dissecting the post magnificently. So Dublin getting the first point of the second half. Playing into the wind.
Well, Johnny MacDonald didn't go for that ball and give a great chance then to Dublin. Keith Barr nips in front of him, gives it up to Desi Farrell, who kicks a great point, but Johnny MacDonald was probably the cause of it.
Pat Gilroy can't hold it. Paul O'Neill can, getting away from the challenges until he's held up there by the number 10 Dermot Doyle.
The Kildare players all around the field are fouling very, very foolishly. There's no need when they have players under pressure to be fouling them.
Certainly in defence in the first half they were a great deal more disciplined than that. Davy Dalton. Galvin has a habit of doing well in matches against Kildare. Charlie Redmond was allowed the latitude by loose marking from a sideline ball. He made it look quite elementary. A third point for Charlie Redmond, the first from play, and all of a sudden it's 5 points to 2. Keith Barr now playing a kind of Martin Lynch sweeper role. Belted forward there. Runs on to Pat Gilroy. Looking for another score. That's a great point. It started at the back. Keith Barr was involved. So too was Charlie Redmond. And that was a super point by Pat Gilroy from Vincent's.
Well, again, Dublin getting plenty of room now because Kildare have to come out and play. Pat Gilroy, who has missed a good few chances in earlier matches, including against Meath in the last day, a great point up from play. The last two Dublin points from play have come as a result of Kildare players fouling people that there was no need to.
Here's Jack Sheedy. Right on the sideline. Vinnie Murphy. Now Mick Galvin hit high. Hit high there by Davy Dalton. And Damon Heary wasn't too pleased with that challenge by Davy. And the notebook is out once again.
Well, a very, very high and dangerous tackle there by Davy Dalton. Great ball up by Jack Sheedy to Vinnie Murphy to set up that, but again, a stupid foul.
Well, the referee, rather interestingly, went back to the injured party straight away to make sure that Mick Galvin was okay, and then went back to book Davy Dalton.
I'd say Dublin would prefer that nobody would get sent off, because when they're on a roll like this, they don't want anything to interrupt it.
It often happens. So Charlie moving back. Another few steps. 2 out of 3 so far from frees for Charlie Redmond. Can he make it 3 out of 4 here? Looks great. It's over the bar. The 4th point of the match in all for Charlie Redmond, and making sure that he's involved in covering any possible quick kick out.
Most obvious thing, of course, at this stage is after 45 minutes of play, Kildare haven't got a point from play.
The dominance once again enjoyed by Dublin. Dennis O'Connell trying to take that ball clear, doing well, but then it's securely held by Kieran Walsh. Jack Sheedy passing it outside to Keith Barr. This is Davy Dalton giving the leadership. They need to win something at half forward. In front of an attendance of 59,696, it's Jack Sheedy who takes it away. On it goes to Paul O'Neill. Support again from Paul Beelan, but hit behind him rather than in front of him. The attack still held up there. It's Beelan kicking. Easy one for Christy Byrne. Oh, what a shoulder. Desi Farrell saying it was a fair shoulder to shoulder, but the goalkeeper, Christy Byrne, didn't know an awful lot about it. Kildare introducing Declan Kerrigan, I can tell you, as the ball has been kicked out. He's just run in a few seconds ago there with a little slip of paper. They haven't taken anybody off yet, because Declan Kerrigan, as you can see, racing towards the referee, trying to tell him that he's now part of the Kildare team. There he is. Well, they needed a change of the forward line. Now can Declan Kerrigan do something to engineer for a Kildare side? And it's Liam Miley going off. It's a Kildare side that's had no shot or a score in the second half so far, and a gale force wind supporting them by and large.
Dublin would really want to get 7 or 8 points in front with the amount of possession, but because surely Kildare will mount some sort of an attack and get back into the game a little bit.
At this stage they'll be hoping that Dublin begin to tire. No evidence of so far. It's Keith Barr. Pulls his shot just to the right. Great catch by Vinnie Murphy. Outside to Heary. Angle was tight enough for him. The backs grouping well, trying to hold up Vinnie Murphy and company. Passing outside to Heary, such good understanding. Mick Galvin kicking, that's a great point. That's one of the best points of the match so far. Mick Galvin's first. It was committed play, full of understanding, and a desire in the end to produce a winning score.
Well, great play by Vinnie Murphy again. 1-2 high balls in, and the goals eventually lays it off, and Mick Galvin shows why he's been brought on. Played well when he came on against Meath, and is a very good sub to bring in.
This latest Kildare attack has been broken up round about the Dublin full back line. Charlie Redmond kicking the ball in, stopped by Davy Dalton. Well, one member of that back line playing well, but under considerable pressure from Vinnie Murphy and the other Dublin Raiders. It's Jack Sheedy. Paul Curran trading passes there with Jack. Glenn Ryan powerless to prevent the shot inside, which is fumbled by Christy Burns somehow, but he's dragged down by Vinnie Murphy, and Kildare get the free kick. Dennis O'Connell now operating, it seems, somewhere between half forward, half back and cornerback. Paddy Moran. Charlie Redmond, who's been involved in so many of the Dublin attacks. They're looking particularly rudderless at this stage, Kildare. 15 minutes gone in the second half. Redmond's kick. Very deep, Vinnie is in for it, fisting off the post. And the referee, I think, deciding that Vinnie Murphy was inside the small rectangle, giving a square ball. Free kick has been taken in any case to Glenn Ryan. Noel Donlan. Dermot Deasy fumbling. Here's MacDonald. Keith Barr. Really stringing this defence together this afternoon, Keith Barr. Urging them on. Jack Sheedy. His side ahead by 8 points to 2. Having a winning look about them at this stage. Vinnie Murphy going away to top of the left. Davy Dalton following. Vinnie angling for the score. A fine point, the first of the match. Well, what a transformation. Dublin struggled in the first half, so much better at the start of the second, and 9 points to 2.
And that's a great Dublin point. It may have looked as if Jack Sheedy was just ballooning it, but it was obvious he was looking across field to Vinnie Murphy. Again, takes it under pressure, gets up, makes his angle and scores. And again, great point for Dublin.
Kildare right now struggling to take the ball beyond the middle of the field. He's fouled. Niall Buckley had 2 free attempts in the first half, much nearer to goal than this, it must be said. He pointed both of them. Content to drop this one in. Nicely foraged that time. That's Paul McLaughlin kicking, but to the left, and he's kicked it wide. Well, they've had very few chances in the second half. 18 minutes now played. I make it 2 chances in all that they've had to score. Varying direction once again. Goes off Dennis O'Connell. Down to Paul O'Neill. Now Paul Beelan. Great block down by Niall Buckley, who tracked back superbly. Kildare win possession. Martin Lynch. Remember the Wicklow match? Well, they need a couple of goals like that from this fellow now. That's Vinnie Murphy who's dragged down. He's been booked already, Vinnie Murphy, and the referee is sending him off. Tommy McDermott has sent Vinnie Murphy off with 16 minutes to go. It was for a sling down challenge here.
But this is a very stupid thing for Vinnie Murphy. Already booked and pulls down Martin Lynch. Referee had no option but to pull him off.
So the 15 Dubs now reduced to 14. Niall Buckley looking for a score here. Dropped in well. Fisted. Over. Well, they're appealing for it, and the referee's gone in there. Quick consultation with the umpires, and yes, the point does count. Well, they need them all. Niall Buckley, the one who floated it in, not quite sure who got the final touch to it, but that's all quite academic. So 6 points the margin. Paul O'Neill springing the trap once again to Keith Barr. Will his brother be part of this Dublin team very shortly? Davy Dalton back there. Appeals by the Dublin followers that it should indeed have been a Kildare ball as Johnny Barr from Erin's Isle gets ready to make his championship debut, I think it is. Oh, that's a poor Sideline ball straight to Charlie Redmond, able to measure his pass, although here he has some running to do, and in the end he gives up the ghost and leaves it to Paul Curran. Now Eamon Hearing, back to Curran once again. Desi Farrell, a few seconds to think about that one, but Curran regained the initiative but couldn't direct the ball on target, and in the end Christy Byrne steps out over the end line for a 45, and that's the first 45 of the match. Charlie Redmond's shooting figures so far, 4 points in all, 3 of them coming from frees. The wind is into his face now. 9 points to 3 the position, Dublin leading. He makes little of the distance or the elements and kicks another great score. He really wants to win another Leinster medal. And Kildare have sprung a change. Tom Harris is in, but he's not in, if you know what I mean. He's ready to come on in the field, but hasn't been able to give the slip of paper yet to referee Tommy McDermott. Sean McGovern pulled down and takes the free quickly against Keith Barr, hoping to win a 13-metre advantage. Players everywhere now just trying to call the referee's attention to the wish to make a switch. So Tom Harris is in, always a useful half forward. They've already brought on Declan Kerrigan. Dermot Doyle, the player who makes way. Niall Buckley taking the free, and it's 10 points to 4. So once again the margin 6 points, but now just 11 minutes to go, and at this stage Johnny Barr is able to come in, and Keith Barr, his brother, just giving him a bit of encouragement, saying come on. And it's Mick Galvin who's making way. Touchdown by Sean McGovern. Dublin trying to get the ball forward. Kildare grouping well. The pressurised Dennis O'Connell there. And an annoyed Charlie Redmond, extremely vexed with that decision that the ball wasn't given to Dublin. It's taken quickly. Tom Harris. Surprisingly outside there towards Anthony Rainbow, who's been something of a disappointment as a half forward this afternoon, but he started his career, of course, in the half back line.
Dublin are doing something very unusual in leaving the loose man in the middle of the field and playing all their forwards in their normal positions. It's a funny thing to be doing at this stage because they can afford to drop back and defend.
Paul Beelan challenged by Davy Dalton. Ball runs out there to Charlie Redmond. Now Johnny Barr. First chance to impress here in this Leinster final. Dublin doing all that's been asked of them in the second half, after they ran into very committed defence in the first half from Kildare, who kept it tight. There were 3 points to 2 at half-time. Now Jack Sheedy. 3 players converging on him. A 14-man Dublin side making little of their numerical disadvantage as Johnny Barr has it. Pat Gilroy kicking for another point. It's blocked down by the extra man, Glenn Ryan. And Tom Harris way back in the half-back line, now sprinting forward, trying to get onto the end of any pass that Declan Kerrigan may play. Sean McGovern held up. Pat O'Neill there animatedly in the background, just instructing his defenders to cover spaces everywhere and anywhere. Paul McLaughlin.
This is very bad play by Kildare. They should be moving that ball on very fast now. They need scores and time is running out.
And McLaughlin wanted to take the ball from the ground. McGovern eventually took it from the hand. This is Paul McLaughlin. Martin Lynch. Declan Kerrigan again trying to set up a possible scoring chance for Paul McLaughlin, and comes off the post. Well, Paul McLaughlin's a much better player, I think, than he's shown us in this Leinster final, but this hasn't been his day. Davy Dalton calling well. Here's McLaughlin once again. Declan Kerrigan, left-footed, trying to sail this one over the bar with accuracy. So Declan Kerrigan's first point, narrowing the gap. There are only 5 points between the teams.
Well, Kildare had plenty of time to get enough points to save this game, and Declan Kerrigan is showing the right way, just turns around, bang, puts it over. A lot of other chances as easy as that have been missed.
Kildare will be expected now to carry the fight to Dublin, to play the game deep in their half for the remaining 7 minutes. But Kildare need a goal badly. That runs on too long. Kieran Walsh. Now Keith Barr. Eamon Heary now back around the half-back line. There is much more at home. Paul Curran, who can link defence and attack. Nice change of direction there. Going to be pushed by Brian Fahy. Rainbow. Great cover there by Eamon Heary. Dermot Deasy. And Heary can't take that ball away from Martin Lynch, and it runs onto Johnny MacDonald for Kildare. They need a score here, and MacDonald provides it, and there are only 4 between them now. This is a great deal more like it from Johnny MacDonald than from his Kildare teammates.
And that score came from a mistake by Paul Curran, who should have really put the ball inside. The move breaks down Johnny MacDonald, pulls inside Paddy Moran and kicks it over. Again, plenty of time if Kildare are good enough.
Martin Lynch fisting it down there. That was Gilroy pressing forward. Johnny Barr now. Powerful frame as he makes his way forward menacingly. Running into stout challenges, kicking with accuracy. And the quick Dublin response. Johnny Barr proves a very fine substitution for Mick Galvin. As we were saying before this game, that if they won this championship with their injury, losses and so on, it would be a very fine victory indeed. There was a jersey checked, Dublin with 11 scores, 11 points out of 26 chances. Kildare made 14 chances in all, made 6 points, hoping now for a 7th from Niall Buckley. In around the house, anybody to fist it, it drops down. Kildare trying to get the boot to it somehow, Dublin trying to get the ball out. Referee well positioned to spot Paul O'Neill coming out of that ruck of players. Heary playing it forward to Pat Gilroy, held up momentarily by Glenn Ryan. The ball kicked into space. And so Kildare's long wait to win the Leinster Championship seems to have to go on for another year. 1956, the year they last won it. It's recovered there by Paul O'Neill. Another player that Pat O'Neill will be able to add to his long list of fine defenders. Johnny Barr kicking it forward, but they've only got Desi Farrell up there now in the Kildare half of the field. But they're guarding a 5-point lead, and on my watch, 15 seconds to go. Martin Lynch. It reaches Tom Harris. Playing it forward here for Anthony Rainbow. Challenged by Heary, but foul, the referee decides. Heary's gone down. But Kildare need a goal and 2 other points just to draw it. Defiantly, the flags wave in unison in Hill 16 as Buckley kicks and puts it over the bar. For the record, he scored 4 points this afternoon, all of them from frees, out of Kildare's tally of 7. The referee holding up the ball, it's all over! And Dublin retain the Leinster Championship. They were much the better team this afternoon. They ran into stubborn defence in the first half, but they played with a great deal more expression and more accuracy in the second half. No wonder Jim Brogan is absolutely delighted. Paul O'Neill came in, played a great game. Likewise Mick Galvin when called upon. But overall a good team performance. Phelan one of the stars also. And in the end they had 4 points to spare. And the full-time score shows Dublin the winners once again by 11 points to 7.
And now, without any further ado, Tugan Shan, Pleasure Johnson, Curran of Runover, Captain, Ballyathlete, Sean O'Leary.
John O'Leary has a 5th Leinster medal. More importantly, he has the cup. Dublin are the Leinster champions. It'll be Dublin against Derry in the All-Ireland football semi-final.
I'm very pleased, particularly at half-time. We were 3-2 ahead, I think, and wasn't looking good, and we returned to play into the breeze, and we played intelligent football, and that's what won it in the day.
I think this game in particular, there was an awful lot of hype about the game, and we just took it as it came, and the day went all right for us, and we won, which is great, you know.
In the first half, I don't know, the type of football we were playing didn't really suit our forwards. We were playing with the wind and we were kicking everything long and high, and it was sort of breaking ball 50-50. In the second half, we were playing against the wind and we had to play low ball into the forwards, and we worked it in that way and created the chances.
I mean, in the first half, we played very, silly football, juvenile football. I mean, Martin Lynch was playing as a sweeper in front of the full back line. We just kept banging long balls into him. It was very unintelligent. Second half, we played a wider up front, ran at them, got our scores, and then just defended our lead.
The elements played a significant part of it in the first half, and I suppose we didn't play in the first half really, and I'm sure Kildare would have been quite happy at half-time going in, but the second half certainly we raised our game a lot and did what was required.
Yes, we're very pleased with it. I mean, there was a great bit of heart and a great bit of gut to the performance in the second, and even in the first half as well. Our strategy was a little bit on the field was a little bit off in the first half. We were putting far too many balls in, and they were defending very, very well. And they one of their midfielders, Martin Lynch, back there defending as well. So on the field, we were a little bit disappointed that that wasn't being the vision wasn't there to identify that.
Well, last January we set in place our programme, and our intention was to win the All Ireland, and we're still on course, and that is still our intention.
So it's as you were in Leinster, with Dublin retaining their provincial crown. Well, unfortunately, the match was never the cliffhanger that people had been expecting from this encounter. Well, let's take a look at the statistics from the game. Dublin hit more than twice as many wides as Kildare, and most of those were in the first half, when the Dubs failed to take full advantage of the wind. Indeed, their inaccuracy in that first half made the game look much closer than it was in reality. 54 frees in all in the game, with Dublin conceding 34. Now, that was 14 more than Kildare. Well, now let's turn to Colm O'Rourke, our analyst in studio. Colm, you're very welcome. First of all, your general assessment of the match.
Well, it wasn't a great game by any means. Maybe the conditions had something to do with it. It was windy and wet for quite a part of the second half. But overall, the standard of football wasn't great. I suppose Dublin won't be a bit worried about that, because they were more or less the dominant team from start to finish.
Now, at half-time, there was really nothing in it. So point on it, I think, at half-time. Plus, Kildare were going to play with the breeze in the second half, and a lot of people around me were saying, oh, well, Kildare have it now. But it appeared Dublin had the better tactics, to say the least of it, in the second half. Yes, Dublin kept the score down well the first half, as Pat O'Neill was saying there, because a lot of the Dublin play wasn't very bright insofar as they kicked in a lot of high balls and Martin Lynch was covering off in front of Vinnie Murphy. In the second half, though, in the first 20 minutes, really, of the second half, when it came down to it, Dublin had the men who were willing to really put their shoulder to the wheel, and people like Keith Barr and Paul Curran and Jack Sheedy, Charlie Redmond. Dublin had all the players really who looked as if they really wanted to win this game. They really took it by the scruff of the neck, and Kildare hadn't any players really, apart from possibly Davy Dalton, who were in that same category at all. Clearly, Kildare people are very disappointed with the way this match went today. Colm, just looking at some of the phone calls, Mick O'Dwyer is one of the best managers in the country, but Kildare don't have the guts to win, and so you can't blame Mick O'Dwyer. John O'Sullivan from Dublin, who called, said the caller would like to ask Colm why Mick O'Dwyer only used 2 forwards up front in the first half and persisted with that tactic in the second half, do you think? Well, I suppose Mick O'Dwyer sends his players out of the dressing room. Like every other manager, the players have to make up their own minds on the field what's the best strategy to follow. So you can plan things in advance, but sometimes when it gets on the field, it's up to the players themselves to use their football brains and intelligence. And in this case, Kildare played it quite intelligently the first half, insofar as they withdrew and they were playing against a strong wind, and they were only a point behind at half-time. So they actually were in a very strong position. But after that, they just simply couldn't get the ball. And if you can't get the ball, you can't win games. Sure, yeah. Now, you mentioned in the commentary there that Kildare were conceding frees that were leading to scores, and this was stupid to say the least of it. And you've picked out a few examples of that. Yes, there was several occasions, especially at the start of the second half, where
Dublin players got the ball, and Kildare give away very silly frees. Here we have Johnny MacDonald. Really goes in very, very dangerously. The ball breaks back out again, and Jack Sheedy's gone on. And Johnny MacDonald then comes in behind him. Absolutely no chance of getting the ball then. Ends up punching Jack Sheedy. And referee books Johnny MacDonald, but the play continues. Free goes in and comes back out again. And when it comes back out, then Johnny MacDonald doesn't go for this ball and allows Keith Barr to get in front of him and sets up Desi Farrell for a very, very good point. But the initial cause of that score for Dublin was a very stupid tackle by Johnny MacDonald. Here we have again great play by Dublin, working the ball very well out of defence. Jack Sheedy in trouble along the line, a good ball up along the wing. Vinnie Murphy out in front, hands it off to Mick Galvin, and that's a terrible tackle by Davy Dalton. I suppose maybe it's a bit unfair picking out Davy Dalton because he's probably the best Kildare player, but here we have again Charlie Redmond kicks it over the bar.
Briefly referring back to the first incident, Tom Kennedy from Drumcondra said the Kildare player punched Jack Sheedy and Tommy Carr got 6 months for doing less.
Well, Tommy Carr didn't do less than that, but I have a certain amount of sympathy. In that case, Johnny MacDonald today was running around doing all sorts of silly things. The first half he kicked Paul Beelan when he was going to pick up a ball. In the second half he was going around throwing elbows at people, and in that incident then punches Jack Sheedy. So certainly who couldn't understand Dublin people saying that one of their men got a long sentence for something similar.
Let's have a look at some of the more positive aspects of this game, because Dublin kicked some very, very good scores from play here.
Yes, they worked the ball well out of defence, and then when they got near the goal they always seemed to have men over. Kildare always seemed to be struggling possession. Probably question whether I was afraid there, but Jack Sheedy, as he was doing all day, was able to carry the ball up the field. Very, very fit and very strong, keeps going. Long high ball, nobody in the right corner there, which can't be seen on the screen, but no Dublin player in the right corner, so he was forced to kick it across field. Vinnie Murphy takes it, and I think again shows the difference between the team. Dublin were able to kick points from play, whereas Kildare failed miserably in that respect. And here we have another obvious difference between the team. Johnny Barr gets the ball, is able to ride a tackle, and rides another one here, puts his man down, turns around and kicks a great point off his left foot. And again, I suppose the Dublin substitutes worked well. Mick Galvin came on and got a point. He was injured, had to go off, and Johnny Barr came on and got a very valuable point. And in a low-scoring game like that, 1 point was very valuable. And I suppose when you're talking about substitutes, the other Dublin sub, Paul O'Neill, made a very significant impact, had a very good game at left half-back.
And yet, despite all this, Colin, in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the game, even though they weren't playing well, Kildare were still in with a chance.
Yes, I suppose Dublin will have to be worried about the fact that they almost had twice as many scoring chances as Kildare, and yet didn't put them completely away. And with 17 minutes to go, I think Paul McLaughlin got that chance. An easy point, wide off his left foot. You know, that one should be a point. Here we have another move, I suppose indicative of Kildare's moves today. They were going over and back, but eventually Glenn Ryan gets it. And again, from a very good position, puts the ball wide. And as you say, they were only 4 points behind at the end. But Dublin had by far the better chances and were by far the better team. So really, Dublin should have had that game well out of reach by the stage when Kildare mounted some sort of a comeback.
Colin, there's been an awful lot of phone calls about the amount of niggling stuff that was going on in this game. Now, too much to deal with any individual sort of thing. Everybody's ringing and saying, why did the referee not book him? Why did he give a free here and so forth? Particularly about the incidents that took place at half-time, which we can't comment on because we don't know what happened in the dressing room area, but we've had a lot of phone calls about that. But a lot of people have also rang in to say that the Kildare team should have stayed on the pitch for the presentation afterwards. Apparently a lot of the Kildare players went off. Generally about the standard of niggling and foul play, Colin, a comment.
Well, it was a fairly hard game, and there was a lot of, as I pointed out there, a lot of very stupid tackling, mainly by Kildare players, when Dublin players had possession. Really the only time in Gaelic football to be tough is when you're contesting possession, and Kildare weren't going about it in the right way. And I wouldn't like to be too hard on Kildare players because I'm sure they're very down in themselves after that performance, and there's no point in, you don't kick a man when he's down. And Kildare played worse today than they are actually. You know, they have to be better than that.
All right, okay, Colin. Well, now we come to our man of the match selection from this afternoon's Leinster final. Now, our choice will be presented with a gold watch worth some £200, may I add. And from this year's final, that is Jack Sheedy, the Dublin midfielder. So well done to Jack and indeed to his Dublin colleagues this afternoon. Jack Sheedy, man of the match, Colin.
Yes, well, as I said, at the start of the second half, when the game was up for grabs, Kildare were in a great position. I think Jack Sheedy probably did more than any other player on the pitch. His constant running, his support play, and going back in defence and carrying the ball up, I think was one of the biggest features of Dublin's play today. Aided and abetted by 5 or 6 others who also played very prominently. But for me, he was outstanding, and you know, he was in opposition to Martin Lynch, and I felt before the game that whatever one of those players dominated, the other would be on the winning side, and as it turned out, it was Jack Sheedy who really had much the better of it today.
Okay, Colin, we'll talk to you a little bit later on again. Now, don't forget our phone lines are still open.